Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Welcome back to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Mazak, and I am so excited to introduce you to our new series all about writing practices. Now, we're going to cover everything from busting myths about writing practice to really defining what does a sustainable writing practice in academia look like, to really giving you the confidence to trust what you've been doing and develop it even further. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. We're so glad you're here. We have over 250 episodes in our back catalog. And what we are doing for the next little while is we are grouping previous kind of themes of content so that if you're new to listening to the podcast, or if you've been around a while, but man, it's been years since those episodes in those early episodes. What I did was I looked through all 250 of our previous episodes and I created this series all addressing writing practice for scholars like you. Now, because some of these episodes are rather old, you might hear me talking about different programs or courses that I've offered over the years. I want to let you know that right now, the only program that we're offering is Navigate, and you can get on the wait list for our Navigate program by going to scholarsvoice.org/navigate. Navigate is a 12-week hybrid coaching plus recorded content program that is designed to help you publish your backlog of papers. So go check it out at scholarsvoice.org/navigate. and get ready to enjoy the writing practice series. Hey there, how are you doing? This is Kathy Mazak coming back to you to talk about writing and publishing in academia. Now, here's something that might seem the opposite of what you've been believing all of this time, so I want to really dig into it today. So today I'm talking about the fact that your publishing problem is not time. Okay, so if you're a professor and you have a disruptive perspective on your field and you have a big backlog of papers, or maybe you just have like a ton of papers that you know are in your analyzed data set and you just haven't been able to what you think, right, is that I haven't been able to sit down. I don't have the time to sit down to get these papers out. All right. This is like such a common problem that we hear all the time from clients in our programs. So what you think, right, is that my problem is time. Like if I just had time, then I would be publishing to the level I want. I would be publishing to that level that I know would be influential in my field. I would be publishing to the level that I need to go up for associate professor or go up for full professor or land those big grants. So that's what you might be thinking. You'll be like, well, if I could just get time. But I'm here to tell you that your publishing problem is not time. Your publishing problem is more complicated than that. And it comes from something that's really wonderful about you. And that is that you actually kind of have too many ideas. All right. Now you don't actually have too many ideas, but you have too many ideas for the amount of time that's currently on your schedule to sit down and write and move those ideas through. And you have too many ideas that are maybe they might not feel this way yet, But after you do some coaching work, you'll realize that your ideas are kind of maybe a little bit disparate. And what you need to do in order to really get a publication groove going and to really get publications out the door is focus your academic mission, right? We call it your academic mission statement. It's like, what is your academic career about? Focus that. And then what you have to publish stops feeling like all of these amazing ideas and starts feeling like, no, I know where I need to put my time and energy in order to get the strategic publications out that I need. All right. So let's dig into this a little bit more. So you have too many ideas, not enough publications actually submitted, right? We're talking about not just getting them out in the world, right? Let's start with just like getting them submitted to the journals where you want to publish them, right? So what I would love for you to be experiencing is that instead of writing being like this binge or bust thing or something that you do over the breaks, like a lot of times professors who have, who are sitting on tons of data to analyze or whatever, they're like, well, I'll just, I'm going to teach my classes. I'm going to, do all my things and then like move on in the holiday times, right? In the between the break times, that's when I'll get all my writing done. It's so much about strategic publications. And really, here's the metaphor that I like to use, right? Especially people who are like go-getters in their field and they have big ideas. And I say like you have a disruptive perspective on your field because so many of our clients are like, I'm living at the intersection of different fields of study. So I'm over here and I'm over there and I'm trying to bridge these things. This is what most people in our programs are actually talking about. They're in a non-traditional path. Their work sits a little bit outside of kind of traditional work, or they're trying to do something new, right? Super exciting people to work with. And people who have so many ideas and they have this here. This is the thing, right? It's the pairing of so many ideas and a scarcity mindset that we are indoctrinated with inside of academia. So here's what this scarcity mindset means, that from the very beginning in our PhD programs, right, we are trained to think there's never enough time, there's never enough money, and there's never enough publications. Let's then move from the doctoral program into there's lots of ways I talk in my book about how we kind of get that indoctrination. Then imagine when you're a professor or you're a researcher or a postdoc or whatever, let's say you're on the tenure track and you're like, okay, well, I need to go up for promotion. How many publications do I need? Almost no universities in the US and Canada, like in the North American system, will tell you, oh, you need X number of publications in this kind of journal. It's just not quantified in that way. And especially for people who live at the intersection of fields, who maybe you're a historian in a gender studies department, or you're a gender studies person in history department, or you're like, I don't know, I don't want to just use humanities of metaphors or examples rather, but you feel like you're a little bit of the odd one out. And the kinds of publishing you do might be a little different than what the average person in your department does. So even if they told you, well, the average person in our department publishes this many things, first of all, they won't tell you that. Second of all, like that quantity might not make sense for your field. So here's the problem, because we never know how many publications are enough, right? Like we never get a number. We never can feel like, oh, well, if I just did 2 to 3 peer-reviewed articles a year, I know I would be good. Like you can feel that inside, but there's always this doubt, right? This question mark, because your university won't ever really tell you what the number is. Like there either isn't a number or the number's secret, whatever, right? So we are always living with this scarcity belief. So if you couple having a ton of ideas, good ideas, also a ton of data, right? Also a lot of passion for what you do, a passion for teaching, usually like you feel a lot of obligation to either teaching students or mentoring them as researchers or whatever. Like you feel that obligation. And then of course you might feel a service obligation, or a service obligation might be like really kind of loaded onto you. You pair all of that with a scarcity mindset. And what you get is a clogged pipeline. You get a pipeline that is like a funnel. We're using some metaphors here, a funnel instead of a pipeline. Here's what I mean. A funnel, if you picture a funnel, right? You're stuffing all this stuff in the top and you're only getting a drip out the bottom. Compared to a pipeline metaphor, which if you think of pipelines, usually their liquid is going through the pipeline and whatever amount of liquid goes in this end comes out this end. So we actually want to create publication pipelines where instead of saying, I'm so scared that I won't get enough publications out, I'm going to stuff everything into my pipeline. The result you'll get from that is a drip of publications. And what you want is a flow of publications, right? So you want to be more selective and more curated about what goes in this end so that what comes out is like just about everything you put in. But that takes focus. And I don't mean focus like in terms of your own attention. I mean, focus in terms of your area of study, like focus in terms of what are the publications? What is the line of research that I want to develop? And all of it, like we use a tool called the academic mission statement in our programs where we ask you, according to like a certain template, to write the academic mission statement. And then it's just like a tool that helps you better like figure out and align all of your publications behind like a common mission, really. And that just helps you. It's just a tool that helps you make decisions. And really your problem, back to the title of this, right? Your publishing problem is not time. Your publishing problem is really curation. It's really decision-making. And it's not your fault that you have a curation problem because we're raised inside of academia, inside of this, with this scarcity. Never enough publications, never enough money, never enough time. And that turns out to backfire on us when we're actually trying to develop a publication pipeline and we're trying to develop a line of research that actually gets into the world in publications where those publications can work for us, where they can get us grants, where they can get us promoted, where they can get our voice louder and our influence, our very important ideas out there influencing other people's ideas, right? And changing the world and changing your field. Okay, so let me paint a picture of what it would look like to not have that scarcity mindset, right? To be able to say like, okay, I'm going to carefully curate my pipeline. I'm not just publishing anything. I'm publishing very specific strategic publications in very specific strategic journals or wherever you publish, right? It could be a book with a certain press, depending on your field. And I'm really talking across fields here. So let me paint a picture of what it might look like. So here's what you kind of want. What you want is that instead of like a binge or bust, instead of like, I have so many things, I have so many ideas, I have so many papers in process. And then on my precious vacation time, my precious between semesters time is when I'm going to get my writing done, which is boom and bust. Like you are going to crash and it's going to not be beautiful. It's not going to be good. Instead of that, what you really want is writing that is integrated into your week so that publications can keep flowing out. Doesn't mean write every day. It means publication integrated into your everyday professorial life so that they can steadily move through your pipeline and come out the other end. You want your writing and publishing to feel easeful, not easy, because it's not easy, but kind of a little bit more full of ease, right? With a little spaciousness, with a little time for thought and a belief in the abundance that, where you've had one good idea, you'll have another. Where you've had one opportunity, more opportunities are going to come. An abundance mindset towards your publications. You want to break that binge and bust cycle and create more ebb and flow, okay? So the difference between binge and bust and ebb and flow is really, really important. That binge and bust is like work, crash, work, crash. Ebb and flow is recognizing that the academic year has, I call them ebbs and flows. We have more busy times and less busy times. Of course, it feels like it's all super busy, but if you really sat down and analyzed your year, you would see that there's like moments when you feel like I got this, it's fine. And then if you're in like a 15-week semester, I would say you hit week 8 and you're like, oh no. And then you're like holding on for dear life from week 8 until you turn in grades. So that, and then you have a break, you have a holiday break or a semester break, and then you do the same thing again. And then you have summer, which is a little different, So there's this ebb and flow that what we want to do is learn to ride it, right? Instead of this idea of like super productivity or sameness that every semester, every week in the semester should be the same. Like I should be writing a certain number of words a week or a certain number of hours a week, regardless of whatever else is happening in the semester or in my life, right? So it's really like a humanizing of the writing process and the publication process and the academic life. We are not machines. We cannot be equally, quote unquote, productive, because it's such a machiney word, right? Productive every single week for the whole academic year. Like that's not how it works. So what you need to learn how to do is figure out the ebbs and flows of your semester and manage them. And I want to introduce just one more metaphor for now, which is the metaphor of the mixing board. So a sound editor, if you picture a sound editor, they have like in front of them, like a big mixing board with tons of knobs, and each track has like ways you can adjust it up and down. So if you imagine like a multiple track recording, you would have all of these knobs in front of you and you could like turn the bass up and turn the drums down and all of that, right? And the job of the sound editor or the producer, right, it's to mix that so that it sounds wonderful. So I want to use that metaphor for you to think about your scholarly life, your professorial life. You have many knobs on the mixing board: teaching, research, service, you're mentoring students, you're creating new courses, you're doing like teaching, research, and service are like the basic buckets, but we all know there's tons of other kind of projects that fall under there. Like there can be outreach work, there can be all kinds of things, right? You've got a mixing board of things. If you try to turn the volume up on every single track to 100 so that they're all at 100 all the time, you will burn out. It will sound horrible in the metaphor, and you will not be able to maintain that. It'll be like a wall of sound in a bad way. So instead, to milk this metaphor, what you want to do is you want to think about what is important for me in this season of my career and in this moment of the year. And you want to turn up the volume on some things and turn down the volume on others. Okay. And this is a way to look at academic project management that's really, really important. Academia is a long game. Academic publishing is a long game. Even in the sciences where turnaround times on articles are actually like rather much shorter than in the humanities, for example, it's still a long game, right? You turn in that grant application and you find out 6 or 8 months later whether you got the grant or not. So what you need to do is learn strategies to manage your energy over the long game, not just so that you like don't burn out, which yes, we want you to not burn out, but also so that you thrive, so that you do with your career what you want to do with your career and not just survive it, right? Or not just like power through it. So a couple of things that also we need to really think about and learn about as academics to help us to implement this strategy of like, sometimes we turn up teaching, sometimes we turn down teaching. It's not that we ignore teaching or we're bad teachers. We turn down teaching so we can turn up publishing. We turn down data collection so we can turn up getting publications out the door. And then we get some things out, we can turn down writing and turn up data collection. Like it's this balance, it's this management of all the different types of projects. Some things that will help you get there, right, are boundaries, right? We talk about boundaries a lot. You hear about it a lot. Boundaries are a kindness that help you to create the life that you want. And also boundaries are a kindness to other people in your life, right? It prevents, by holding boundaries, it prevents you from resenting people. It prevents a lot of nastiness. And so That's something in all of our programs that we work on is thinking about what boundaries we need to put around things, like our writing time, for example, and how we can put systems and processes in place to hold those boundaries in a way that doesn't cost us a lot of energy. This idea was really focusing on this, right? Like there's this, like, how can we make what we publish intentional? How can we make it strategic? Instead of this, like, I just got to publish anything and everything, being really mindful, being really strategic and intentional narrowing of your career focus so that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish and influence your field in the way that you want to. The other thing I want to mention too is that as most of the people in our programs are university professors. And so we might also have like full-time researchers, or occasionally we have postdocs in our program, but basically we have professors in our program. And they might be at all stages. They might be early career, mid-career, late career. They all have in common, right, that they want to clear their pipelines and that they want to get their publications and their voice out in the world. One thing we need to realize is that as we mature, as we learn, as we grow, as we move through our careers, thinking that phrase like what got you here won't get you there is really, really true. You have to be mindful of adopting new practices, trying new things. What worked for you to get your dissertation written is not what's going to work for you to get your publications out so that you can go up for tenure. And then likewise, once you get tenure, and I'm talking about the North American system, which is the one I'm familiar with, but this holds, in Europe and all over the world, right? Whatever system you're in, as you're going through kind of levels of promotion. What got you to tenure isn't going to sustain you post tenure. So you really need to think about how you can develop and continue to put energy and time and even investment, right, in developing yourself as a writer, as a publisher, right, as a person who publishes as you move through your academic career. So we talked today about curating your pipeline, that's really important, being strategic. Another thing to think about is really, as I just mentioned, learning about yourself and your process and being open to trying new things as you grow through your scholarly career, because what got you here isn't going to get you there. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.